Hey guys, how we doing tonight? It's your boy Bugs. Finally, I'm back. I know I've been away for a while. I'm not gonna lie, this entire format, I was super hype about Enel, for sure. Um, but Enel has not got me a win yet. I have gone X1 more times than I can count. Literally, like almost every event, I was going X1. I had, I think, like 2 or 3 events where I went X2. But for the most part, I was going X1 every single event with Enel. I would either lose the mirror match or I would lose to Sakazuki occasionally. My win rate versus Sakazuki, I think, ended up being a little slightly more in their favor. And the mirror match, I would usually beat just about any other NL player, but there was one player in particular, my buddy John. He's like my day one training partner. He's also an NL, and for some reason I could just never beat him. So I got sick and tired of it, and I decided to switch it up. I know you guys have seen a lot of my NL content. Obviously, I do love that leader still. Really cool. But I'm playing basically a very similar deck, but with another leader that has access to a really, really good boss monster. You guys probably already know who I'm talking about. It's your boy, katakuri. So I'm going to show you guys the profile. I came in first place yesterday, 4-0. The day before that, I went X1. And I've been having a lot of success with this deck. So give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to show you the setup. I'm going to show you the winner cards and everything, and I'll be right back. 1 second. All right, guys. So here we are. I have the deck list laid out for you guys. I'm going to bring it back a little bit. So if you guys want to take a quick screenshot, go ahead. And I'm basically going to go over the deck list. So, of course, we got our leader, Charlotte Katakuri. Look at one card from the top of yours or your opponent's life, and then place it on the top or bottom of the deck. Then this leader gains plus 1,000 power. Obviously, you guys probably know him by now. This leader was literally basically the enforcer for the meta of 4.5 once Red got nerfed. Honestly, I think this leader is still really good. As you guys know, I was playing Enel for a while, but like I said, I kept going X1, 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 and basically I win that Katakuri has a really good Sakazuki matchup. And to be honest, I actually like the Enel matchup better with Katakuri than I do with Enel. So honestly, for me, that was it. So I've been playing Katakuri for the past couple events, and I was getting warmed up to it. And yesterday, I finally tweaked my deck to the point where I feel like I found a good recipe, and I won. I even beat a couple really tough players that usually do stop me, and I went undefeated. So yesterday, I went round one was against actually it was a category mirror match. I won that. I won the die roll. Got to go second. Dropped multiple big bombs. Basically, I just destroyed this guy. Honestly, he wasn't the best player. I'm gonna be honest. But round two ended up being against Purple Luffy. Purple is definitely one of the boogeymen of this format for our yellow in particular because of Enel. I mean, sorry, not Enel. Because of Magellan. Sorry, because of Magellan's minus effect. I was lucky enough to have him basically brick and not see the Magellan till late. And when I went for game, he literally had like, I think he had like 5 cards in hand and only 2k worth of counter. He only had one like 2k and everything else was just a brick. So it worked out pretty well. Round three, I went against my buddy John, the one that I was talking about before, who was basically my day one training partner and always beats me with an L. Yesterday, basically the day before the event that I'm talking about, I faced him in round one and beat his NL deck as well. And then now I faced him in round three. We were both 2-0, and I took the dub. Honestly, Big Bomb is a hell of a card. That card is literally just insane versus NL, especially when the player decides to go to 1 life very early or 2 life very early, and you chain Big Bombs. It's basically GG. The game after that, so that was 3-0. Yeah, and then in round four, I ended up going against Red Purple Law. And The guy had one turn where he might have been able to get me because I had no counter in hand, but I also did have 3 cards, so he didn't want to risk it, and he played it too safe and ended up killing him on the clapback. His big mistake was swinging with his blocker. He actually chose to swing with the queen, but then not fully commit and swing with the other. Like, I think he had like 2 or 3 more swings. I did have a blocker in life though, so I think I might have still been able to get there. But yeah. So let's go over the deck profile. Also, too, this one I won on Monday. This one I won on Tuesday. So we're doing pretty good out here, boys. Katakuri is killing it. I set the deck up in cost order. So we're going to start with pudding. Very typical. Basically just our Nami of the deck, our searcher. Staple in this deck or any deck that's been in the Big Bomb package. Now we're going to the 2 cost events. These 2 cards are literally like game winning. Thunderbolt and Amaru. So the other day I had a kid who he's actually beat me 3 times in a row versus my Enel deck with his Sakazuki deck. And I played him with this list, and I was the most comfortable I've ever felt versus Sakazuki. I had like 6 or 7 life because he kept healing me when I played the 7 drop, and then I also played a couple 10 cost, and basically it got to the point where I was just waiting to see these cards in a way that I can destroy his Sabos because he kept blockering up. I had him at no life for like several turns. And I got to the point where he kept blockering up. And I had a Thunderbolt in hand, and I had 2 Amarus. And then when I saw the second Thunderbolt, I went from 3 life. I Thunderbolted a Sabo, used another Thunderbolt on the other Sabo because now their effects were up. Their protection effects were up. And then I used Amaru to rest the 4 drop and just went for game after that. And it was over. Like, this card versus Sakazuki late game is actually insane. And the triggers are also very useful. Amaru, if I look at the top life and I see an Amaru, I'm putting it at the bottom of my life. 100%, because this card is life-saving. It throws off the opponent's math so badly. They think they have game, and they commit, and they even swing with their blockers, and then all of a sudden you have an extra life that they didn't account for. Thunderbolt is really good in the mid-game, I would say, when they have their 5-cost blockers out, or any of their 5k bodies, sometimes lower. Really good for dealing with Borsalinos, because Borsalinos are not protected during the opponent's turn. So if they attack you and they trigger this, you get a free Borsalino off their board. And also, like I said, it can put you in range to use Amaru for the resting effect. If you have 2 life, you trash one with this, and then you can Amaru and you go for game. You don't do this card unless you have game. That's the only time you actually hard play this. Otherwise, you use it for discard fodder for your bodies. Next card is Buzzcut Mochi. So this card, honestly, I'm going to be honest with you guys, this card didn't come up. The trigger is really good. It can play a character with trigger a 4 cost or less out of your hand. So your crackers, your smoothies, your Parasparrows, stuff like that. It can play them for free. And also it KOs a 4 cost. This card actually took the spot of Gadatsu. Gadatsu went from a 3 over my deck to a 2 over my deck. And then eventually I was like, you know what? I'm tired of seeing this card in my life. I want a card that actually has trigger and basically serves the same purpose. And that's where Buzzcut Mochi comes in. It only costs 2 instead of 5. And it also deals with a Kuzan because it's 4. So basically for Sakazuki, you do the same game plan. You don't swing at them. You let them get you to 3 life. You protect yourself from that point on. And then you Buzzcut Mochi their Kuzans if that is an issue. See, all the time this card comes up. If you see it, you see it. If you don't, you don't. If it's dead in your hand, you discard it for a body. Simple as that. Next up, we got Parasparrow. And yes, we are only running him at 3. Honestly, Parasparrow has no counter. And one of the big issues with this deck is that sometimes you can be bricked up and have no counter in hand. And Parasparrow is just a card that has very depreciating value. He's really good if you're forced to go first on your second turn, or he's really good out of life. Other than that, late game, he is basically a dead card, or he's discard fodder. So I decided to drop him down to 3. It felt fine. I saw him when I needed to see him. You know, obviously, it ended up working out. Next up, we got Capone. No explanation needed. This card is Sosaki. Up to one of your opponent's leaders or characters cannot attack during this turn. If you see this in your life, you literally just shove it to the bottom of the deck. and you're fine. Then you just sit back and relax. Because then what ends up happening is that you don't get to the Capone. What you end up doing is you heal on top of it with the 7 cost Big Mom or the 10 cost Big Mom or the Katakuri, and then they never end up seeing it. And if they do finally almost get through to it and they have to go for game because you have them in such a bad position, and they're like, oh, I'm going to die. I can't clear their board. Let me go for life. Boom. Capone comes through, saves your life. Another life-saving card. Brule. Honestly, the biggest reason why I cut her down to 2 is because she has very terrible stats. Simple as that. If she's in your life, she's great. If she's in your hand versus Sakazuki, for example, she's basically just a 1K counter. Sakazuki is the best deck. So there's no point in maxing out on this card when I know I'm going to be facing Sakazuki players. A card that is pretty good in Sakazuki is Sanji. If you do see this off life after they've already expended their Dawn and they're tagging or whatever, or maybe they just don't account for it, this card can come in clutch. Most of the time lately, this card turns sideways. I look at it more as a rush Sanji because it comes out of life, and then on your next turn it can attack, so it's kind of like a rush character. But the blocker does come up. He can be a wall to help you defend yourself, and if you're desperate and you're at like 10 Dawn, you can like put 2 on leader, drop 2 Sanjis, and hope for the best, you know? Next up, we got Cracker. Cracker is back at 4. I cut this card down a little bit. I tried him at 2, tried him at 3. Honestly, I missed this card. This card is so good. Sometimes people just literally don't play around it. Like in the law matchup yesterday, the turn that I killed, he had 2 life. I had a Cracker on board. I had 1 other character, and I had my leader swing. So the Cracker came in for 9, and then I think it was a Sanji went in for 9, and the leader went in for 9, and ended up having game. So yeah, Cracker's just great. I love this card. He's definitely better. I think late game, if you can manage the life and try to keep yourself at almost even, because then they have like no choice but to play into the Cracker at some point. But also pretty early too, he's good, because if they're smart, then they don't attack you, and then that's just an extra turn that you get to your Big Mom more safely. And if they're dumb, then they attack you, and then you get a double attack. Like, double attack is back breaking versus Sakazuki. They don't have a lot of counter power. And if it's too early for them to establish like a wall of blockers, then you're pretty much fine, and you end up just destroying them. Next up, the card that replaced Delay, and I forgot what else I took out for this. Actually, it was one of the Gadatsus or something like that, probably, because I did have them at 3. We have Smoothie. This card comes in handy because, 1, it's another body off life. I think in total in this list I have 20 bodies that can come off life that have a 5K stat line. So that is just great. It's a lot of pressure. I like to play this deck aggressively. I think that's where Katakuri shines, is an aggressive deck that also has like really great late game defense if you're able to put certain cards on the bottom of your life. Smoothie helps for those people that for some reason don't want to attack you. If you can get her out early enough, turn 2, or if you get her off life, you can just forcefully take a life, or aka draw a card and make her a 7K for pretty much nothing. So really great card. Next up, we are going to go to Satori. He is a 2K counter, and he is also a body off life. If you guys notice with this deck list, I'm not running a crazy amount of 2K counters. I'm actually only running the 8. Honestly, it's all you need. I really don't feel like I need more than that. A lot of the times people like to come in for low amounts, so like I like having a lot of 1K counters as well, which comes in handy. The Satori, sometimes you play them, sometimes you just take them to hand. Depends on the situation. Simple as that. If you can math it out and you're like, okay, if I keep this in hand, I can basically counter out of whatever they can do next, then you keep it. If you're like, oh, if I play this body on the board, then it's going to be way harder for them to survive the next turn because they only have 3 cards in hand, then you play it. Simple as that. Next up, we have the other 5 cost trigger character that comes out of life but has terrible stats. We have Shirahoshi, but this is literally Graceful Charity. Honestly, sometimes I literally hard cast it. If I have a Katakuri in hand and I see a Katakuri and I'm on 6 Dawn, I have nothing better to do, I'll swing with 1 with leader, look at the life. If it's a good one, I put it on the bottom. If it's a bomb, then I keep it on top. Like most of the time, if it's like a 7 drop, 8 drop, 10 drop, I'll keep it on top. And I'll hard cast as Hirohoshi just to fix my hand up, because sometimes this deck can get bricky, But Shirahoshi being able to draw 3 and trash 2 is just great. No 6 cost bodies, but we go straight to 7 drops. We got the 7 drop Big Mom. I was running her at 4. The one big issue with this card is that it does have depreciating value. Like at the end of the day, Katakuri and Tetra Big Mom are just better. So if you see those, this card's kind of useless, especially if you actually do win the die roll and you're on the even curve. But when you're on the odd curve, this card is very nice because you want to see 2 of them. You want to play 1 on 7, and then you want to play 1 on 9, and then you want to play a 10 drop. It is actually backbreaking if you do that to your opponent. Like, they literally, most of the time, they heal you. So you'll end up just having such a huge life advantage. And if they're ballsy enough to burn themselves, then they're just losing resources, and they're losing guaranteed resources once you get into the 10 drop. Next up, we got Katakuri. Basically, honestly, one of the best cards of the deck. If the 10 drop Big Mom didn't exist, this probably would be the best card of the deck. You can use them offensively to clear their board and put something in life, which sometimes is the right idea, because if you know you have this and you're going into this, you put their card on the top of the life and then you burn it with this. So it's just a really roundabout way of just removing a character, but it's 8 costs or less, so that's nothing to sneeze at. Also, he can help you loop cards like Shirahoshi, put that back in life. Sometimes you want to put this back in life. Why not? I've also put my opponent in awkward situations where I'll play a Capone. Like, I'll hard cast a Capone the turn before and be like, all right, do something about this. Because if you don't, Katakuri comes down and I put him at the bottom of my life. So now you guarantee have to deal with that. So it's actually pretty good. Also, just a great body. 1 down, you're swinging for 9. Super optimal. And then finally, the big baddie. The main reason why I feel like this deck is just better than Enel. I'm sorry, like, I know Enel is a great deck. Skype is cute, but honestly, the Big Mom package is better, and this deck just does Big Mom better than Enel. Why? Because they have this card. You 10 drop Big Mom. If your leader is Big Mom Pirates, which category is, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life, and then trash 1 card from the top of your opponent's life cards. This card is absolutely backbreaking when you play multiples back to back, and sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes you can play this, and then you can play this card plus leader effect to either gain a life or trash one of their life, and that still feels pretty good. But yeah, this card is the card that just wins games versus Sakazuki and versus NL. Because if Sakazuki does choose to spend a turn removing this, guess what? You already got the value. You took away one of their life and you gained the life. And NL literally just can't do anything about this. So once you get to 2 to 3 of them, you basically win, especially because you usually have a 7 drop or an 8 drop down. You just burn their last life, you make them heal, then you swing 12, then they have to take it, and then you swing 12 again, and then they just lose because they don't have it. Pretty much that's kind of how things have gone. Yeah. This is the deck profile, guys. I'm going to try to keep it short. Thanks for tuning in, and wish me luck. I'm going to keep going. I'm unfortunately not going to Nats, but honestly, guys, I think this is a list that will do extremely well if you do take it to something like Nationals, because the Sakazuki matchup feels great. The NL matchup feels fine. Honestly, even Purple Luffy, if they don't see the back-to-back Magellans and completely destroy your curve, you can destroy them. But also, you honestly just swing big. You just don up your leader and don up whichever character you got off life, because you will be getting characters off life, having 20 of them to trigger. Between Sanji, Pero, Smoothie, and Cracker, and Satori, those are just all options that can come off life. You put 2 on them, you put the rest on your leader, and you just pressure your opponents, and this deck will get you there, believe me. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. Have a good one. Listen, get your Katakuri if you're maining it. This card is going crazy. This card literally doubled in price overnight. I sold an entire Alt-Art CP package to get that Alt-Art Katakuri and basically another Alt-Art 8-drop. I had 3 Alt-Art 8-drops. Well, I had a playset, but I sold one, and then I sold another one. And then I got a third one back after selling CP. And then this guy who wanted to max out his deck basically traded me a playset of the regular art, which to me looks pretty damn sick anyway. Like honestly, like I love this art. Like this art is just as good to me as the alt art. So he gave me 3 of those, plus an extra $100, and I couldn't say no to that. Cause these cards, man, yeah, these cards are worth a lot of money right now. Look, now's a good time to, move cards if you have to. Play base rarity. They work just as good as the alt arts, believe me. One card I do always want is my leader to be alt art, so I always do have an alt art leader on deck. But as far as the deck goes, I just sell the stuff, guys, honestly, and it works out pretty good. Anyway, guys, have a good one.